We're reconvening after closed session. The date of the meeting of the Rent Control Board is hereby called back to order after its closed session. Please join me in a salute to our flag. next order of business is a report of closed session.
Yes, good evening, board members and public. The board met in closed session at 6:33 this evening. The board granted a cost of living adjustment for agency managers of 2.75% effective January 1st. This COLA is equivalent to the adjustment granted to other agency employees. The board also aligned personal leave days for all management staff by granting 2 additional personal leave days for the general counsel and the public information manager, excuse me, for a total of 4 days. The closed session adjourned at 6:55. That's the report.
Next item on the agenda is item number 5, approval of the minutes from January 9, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Oh, you tapped that little thing. Yeah.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 7, public comment. And we have no, whoops, did I skip something? Oh, special agenda items. Sorry.
I don't have any this evening.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the board on any matter of general interest to the community within the board's subject matter jurisdiction. As of this evening, we do not have any speakers for public comments. We will proceed to item 10, jurisdictional items. Item number 10, jurisdictional items. We have an owner occupancy exemption and 2 new construction exemptions. All of the recommendations is to grant the.
Yeah, I was going to move.
Is there
yeah, to grant all 3. I read them. They're straightforward.
To forego staff report?
Yeah, I don't think we need a staff report. They're pretty standard.
I would concur.
Okay.
It's crystal clear, all
Okay.
3 cases.
So the motion of Commissioner Torosis is to grant item
10A and B.
10A and item 10B1 and 10B2 for the reasons stated in the staff report. Do we need a voice vote? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Duran?
Wait, do we have a second on that?
Second.
Oh,
Yep.
okay,
And
great.
Sage, second.
Yes.
Commissioner Trosis?
Yes.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
And Commissioner Phyllis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item on, so item 10C is an appeal that's been continued to March 12th. So see that at next meeting. We're now on item 12A, which is establishment of a new position, administrative staff assistant. We have a staff report, please.
Yes. As I think the board knows, our longtime legal secretary, Laura Phillips, retired from her position at the end of December. And we gave some thought to the replacement of the legal secretary position. But I determined that that's really not appropriate because the work that a legal secretary does is not really something that's relevant in modern law practice. And what we really need is a more high-level administrative assistant. And this position is that. The city, in general, as a part of its civil service list of employees, already has a position called administrative staff assistant that has exactly the kind of skills that we need in this position. And so we simply borrowed from that along with its salary schedule. The salary schedule for this is less than it was for the legal secretary too, so there's some savings to the board as a result of this. I've provided, as a part of the packet, the job description along with the salary schedule, which, just for the benefit of the public, ranges from, at step 1, a monthly salary of $5,066 per month, to at step 5, $6,254 per month. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Are we taking action on this tonight?
Yes, you'll be approving the position if you choose to do so.
Do we need to take a motion?
And also amending the budget.
And amending the budget, yes.
Okay, just so, and I'm totally going to recognize all the speakers who want to speak. I just want to make sure that we know what we're moving towards. So we do need a motion to
Yes.
approve.
To approve the position and to amend the budget to account for the savings as a result of the new position, and also to fund that position.
Okay. All right. I saw that there were requests to speak. Commissioner Terosis.
Yeah, do you want?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, she's first.
So thank you, Mr. Lewis, for bringing this to our attention. Obviously, we're aware. I always am cautious to do anything where the position is lower. I think, if anything, you need like a more analytical, higher level skill set. So I'm just curious what alternatives were considered, and then I have a few other questions as well.
It is actually a high-level skill set position.
Okay.
It's just that the skills are not those of a legal secretary. This person doesn't need to
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how to take dictation,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. In the days when legal secretaries existed more as legal secretaries, there was a fairly high level of almost paralegal-like skill that they had. And we certainly don't need anybody to do any kind of legal research. That's all done by the lawyers. But there is a lot of high-level administrative work that this person has to do.
Wait, question, why don't you need a paralegal-like person to help you guys with legal research?
Because we have the bandwidth to do it ourselves.
And you like doing it yourselves?
I feel more comfortable knowing that it's absolutely correct.
Okay, no, that's fine. Like, that's your stuff. I just know from my own personal experience, I'm quite surprised that we would forego that help. And I assume that you guys propound discovery, respond, all of that.
Yes.
Okay. What does the city attorney have, like with their deputy city attorneys? I'm just curious. What kind of staff
help?
assistance do they have, and what level is that at, and was that considered here?
I don't really know, but this position will not only work in the legal department, they'll
Okay.
also work in the other departments that the board has. They will serve, for example, as backup for the board secretary if the board secretary is absent, and they'll also provide help putting files together and that sort of thing for the hearings department. So it's not a specialized legal position, because this position doesn't really, all of the work that would be specialized as legal work is already done by the board's lawyers. We need somebody who has a high level of attention to detail and is able to work without a lot of supervision, but we don't need somebody with specialized legal skills.
Are all of the attorneys in agreement on this move? Okay, I see a nod.
We had extensive internal discussions about what the appropriate position was for a couple of months.
Okay.
Actually, for several months, because these discussions started several months before the legal secretary retired, because we knew that was coming.
Okay. I would have felt more comfortable if I knew what the city attorney positions were, but I guess that's neither here nor there, since you guys are much leaner. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Foster, and then Commissioner.
So having read the staff report and hearing General Counsel Lewis's explanation and enjoying your line of questioning, they were great, those were good questions. But I'm satisfied that it's a neutral or even positive impact to our budget, and it's what staff wants, and this staff has never done anything other than act in a responsible manner, and if this is what they say they need, then I believe them. So I move to. Thank you. Well, I can make a motion, can't I? Yeah. Well, but he can continue to discuss before somebody seconds it, or even after.
Discuss your motion, but it's cool. You can do it.
Oh.
And then, yeah. Like,
Go
what's
ahead,
your-
Steve.
Go ahead.
All right, so I move that the board approve the attached classification, specification, and salary grid for administrative staff assistant rent control, and 2, update the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget by deleting 1 legal secretary 2 position and adding 1 administrative staff assistant rent control position.
Commissioner Duran, do you wish to speak on the motion? Or you have to do it with your fingers?
Okay. I'm 100% comfortable with seconding it based on the consideration that council have thoroughly reviewed what they need. It sounds like what they want to get is somebody who's more attuned to the particular needs of the office now, and they're willing and able to do it at a cheaper rate. I have no reason not to second that and go based on what our council's recommendations are. So I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. May we have a voice vote? Roll call vote. Jeez, not really.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
Commissioner Trosis,
Yes.
Commissioner Duran,
Yes.
and Commissioner Phyllis.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Well, our next item on the agenda is 12B, which is an update on the 2020 development and implementation. We have a late speaker who got lost on her way to come to this meeting, which I also did, so particularly empathetic tonight. She's requested to speak on item number 7, whoops, jeez, which is public comment. Is there consensus on the board to hear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Frazier, it is, yes. Okay. And you have 3 minutes.
Microphone, yeah, over here at the podium.
I don't know. This is a new experience.
Pam, will you tap it to see if it's on the microphone?
Testing, testing. Okay.
In just a second, because we don't have a timer, and I want to get a timer out. If you want to, that's great.
Go. Good evening. My name is Gina Frazier, and I've been living in Santa Monica for probably close to 20 years. In my apartment right now, I've been living there for close to 14 years. And close to Thanksgiving Day, I got and I lived there under a Santa Monica voucher. Close to Thanksgiving, I was served by an attorney that I had to vacate the building within 90 days. The reason why is because I found out that my unit is deed restricted, and so the owner can charge whatever he wants. So I was living there with my daughter, but my daughter had moved out probably close to 3 years ago, but she moved out, but she never really left, because my daughter has seizures. And so I've been her caretaker because she cannot stay by herself. So I had asked the owners if it's possible that I could, move her back in to help with, maybe we could stay a little longer or something like that. What it is I'm a one person living in a 2-bedroom. So I wanted to know, I don't know if you can answer this or anything like that, but I wanted to know I'm here to find out what are my rights as far as leaving the building. I mean, do they have an obligation to kick me out after 14 years in 90 days? Do they have to provide any type of assistance with me finding another place, assistance with moving or anything? So that's basically what I'm here to find out. And I'm not the only one they're doing it to. They're doing it to a couple other people in the building. And so all of a sudden we're living there for 14 years, and now all of a sudden I got to get out in 90 days. I don't think that's fair. And I'm 62, unbelievable, but I was told that I could apply for senior housing. So when I applied for senior housing, I found out that the waiting lists are 3 years long.
Right.
So I'm just here to find out, is there an obligation to the owner of the building that wants me out to help with maybe assisting me with another place to live, or even with moving or whatever? So that's what I really was here to address you guys tonight.
So thank you for your public comment, Ms. Frazier. I will turn it over to our general counsel, but just briefly, because this is public comment,
I know you can't say
we're a
anything.
little bit restricted, but fortunately our staff is here.
Okay.
I think Stephen can speak briefly now, and hopefully you can connect with him after the meeting, or our other staff members as well. Stephen, you want to?
Yes, I wanted to
There we go.
to just say that you may have those rights that you asked about, but I need to know some facts in order to be able to properly advise you where to go and who to talk to. And if you stay until after the meeting, I'd be happy to give you my contact information, and we can talk, the two of us.
Okay, thank you so much.
And thank you for sharing this tonight, because I think, even though it's not on the agenda, you certainly brought something to the board's attention that we are very concerned about.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to say it because we originally came as DV clients. I mean, we came from domestic violence.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
but I put the zip code down.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Frazier. Okay, so next item on the agenda is update on Rent 2020 development and implementation. That's our database. As opposed to COBOL. That's what it's been called for months. Okay. All right.
So this is just an information item this evening. It doesn't require the board to take any action. Last meeting, Commissioner Terosis asked for an update, and it's certainly a timely thing to do. We've been working very hard on this project, certainly for the last year, but in fact, it's been many years coming. But before I get started, I just want to say, while this is a technology project, it does not get done without a huge amount of staff time, intelligence, dedication. And I've been working with a fantastic project team, and I want to acknowledge each of them. You all know Lima Noseworthy. She knows everything about the agency, and that's a really important piece of putting this particular database together. She's there when I leave at the end of the day, and she's there when I arrive in the morning. I don't think she goes home. I mean, she is really just putting so much time and energy into this on top of her job. Dan Costello is also working very hard on this project. He's been very involved in the business analysis portion of it, always with an eye to the best way we can possibly serve the public. Our technology people, Hong Win and Jean Phillips, are also very involved. They know about the current data and the structure of the database. They are very involved in the data conversion piece of this, but that's our project team. We've been working really hard together, and I want to acknowledge all of them. We also have some other partners. Al Dave from the city's Information Systems Department has been assigned to work with us on this project. He's been providing real support in the area of infrastructure, the needs of our consultants in terms of accessing the city's systems and being able to provide the system for us. So Al has helped us out. And then, of course, you know that in December of 2018, was it January? I think it was maybe either December or January, December 2018 or January of 2019, you approved the contract that we've entered into with TruePoint Solutions to implement this database and property and rent tracking system. So we have some great partners at TruePoint that we've worked very hard with. And then also we work our document management system. We have a company called ADocs that has helped us with our document management system for years, and that's a component of this as well. So I want to acknowledge the human contributions, which are so significant to this project. So as I said, this project has been many years in the making. It's been driven by a need to replace our outdated system and to incorporate enhanced capabilities both for our staff and for the public. The planning aspects and needs analysis included looking at other rent control jurisdictions. What are they doing? What's working? What's not? In 2017, the board established a technology subcommittee of Chairperson Phyllis and Commissioner Terosis, and they worked with us, and we issued a request for information in September of 2017. September of 2017, we issued the RFI, and that was very helpful. We got some responses from that, which helped us further develop our request for proposals, which was issued in April of 2018. And then, as I mentioned, we approved the project or the particular implementers in December of 2018. So as you see on the screen, the real goals of this project have been to improve access and transparency to the rent control information for the public and for our staff, give the staff the ability to do more with the system without depending upon the need for a programmer, and to implement workflow processes and report generation that are more at the control of the user directly. We're going to be providing online access via free subscriptions to property owners so that they would be able online to update their property information, their mailing addresses. We've seen a high adoption of our online filing of the tenancy registration forms, and so we're hoping that we will see a similar high adoption of this online public access. Tenants and landlords both will be able to submit forms and petitions online, making it easier. And we're also very soon going to be releasing public access to our rent-controlled property site-related documents. There will be a web portal where people will be able to search, and I'll talk a bit more about that as we go along. So that's a significant change. Right now, people have to come to our office to see any documents in our files, and they will be at their fingertips from their devices. So this project has several components. We have, of course, all of our current data, which we've maintained for 40 years as the law has developed. We have lots of information about the ownership and property details and unit information, rent petitions, unit billing histories, and we could have simply converted that to a SQL database and moved along. But we wanted to really make this system work for everybody. So we, as I mentioned, the workflow and the online filing of tenancy registration forms has really proved successful for us in terms of efficiencies, getting the database updated more quickly. This one workflow was developed for that, actually by our ADOCS partners, and it's been very helpful. So this system will involve workflows for most of the processes within the agency. We also, as I've mentioned, will have document access via the web to all of our documents, or more recent documents, the last 15 years. And this will also have a contact tracking portion, which we've never had, but we will be able to keep track of the contacts that we have with people about properties or units. People will be able to look at that and see what were the previous contacts. Staff members will be able to see that. And we're also making a real effort through this system to gather email addresses and be able to do additional communications. This can be an informal conversation, so if anybody...
Yeah, I have a question. So is the contact tracking, quote unquote, like a CRM, like a customer relationship management system where you're putting in like all the contact that you've had with that person, or is it just attached to the unit?
We will be able to put in all the contact. They don't call it a CRM, they call it a customer service management system.
Sounds very similar.
It is very similar. It's something we've never had.
That's
the ability.
fantastic.
And
I think
so
that's
this is
super helpful.
Yeah, this is a nice component of this system. So there are many building blocks to get this project to fruition. We're starting off, or we've been working very hard over the past year on the business requirements piece of it. Infor, the software application that we're installing in TruePoint system, they have their methodology for approaching this. So we are working through their methodology. So on the screen here, you can see the different components. There's an intense analysis of the business needs and processes. We've been working on that for the past year. There's a big part of the data conversion, which is once we've been through the business analyses and we've seen what information will we be collecting through those processes, whatever information that we already have that isn't part of those processes directly will be mapped into different portions of the database. So that's the big data conversion piece. I'm going to talk a bit more about that. There's a big development of reports. We have a number of reports that we use on a regular basis. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But as I've said, this system is also going to allow the users to do ad hoc reporting, which they are not able to do currently. The Infor uses what they call a waterfall approach to testing of the database and development. So as each application is developed, we are testing it, we're approving it as we go along. So we don't have the whole system put together, but we're testing various components, and eventually it will all go together. But this allows us to be testing throughout the process and not just waiting to the end. Training is going to be very, very important for this. It's completely different than what we do now. We have a very straightforward system. This is going to seem complex, and I have to say I've had some frustrations myself along the way, but I'm getting more familiar with it, and it's going to do a lot for us, but training is going to be key, and our True Point partners will be on site with us for a week while we're doing training with the staff and training super users, and then they will also be with us when we go live for at least a week while we're using the system in full.
I have another question.
Okay.
Is there going to be like a designated point of contact in the agency that will be able to make like small fixes to the system?
We're gonna have somebody who's going to be on staff to maintain the system.
Like full time?
Yes.
Without doing anything else?
Well, we have a person now
Right.
who is retaring. We're going to be hiring somebody,
You
a
will,
business
okay.
technology analyst, but they will also be aligned with the city's information
okay.
systems department.
And they would be equipped with the skills so that you could have that in-house. You wouldn't have to like pay for additional
Exactly.
hours. Yeah, great.
That's our objective, is to
Okay.
get somebody
Lights
who
are
will,
turning off.
I guess they're telling us to go home.
Okay, no, that's good.
Yes, we will have a
Okay,
business
great,
plan.
thanks.
Okay, so this slide sort of summarizes all of the different areas that we've been looking at the business processes. This has been, as I said, a major portion of the core system development. We've reviewed all agency forms and applications and processes. Our partners from TPS came to meet with us 6 different times over the year for 4 days each visit to map out these processes, to talk about any questions they had. They've done thorough analysis and documentation of each of the steps in the process, the data items that we'll be capturing, and the automation opportunities. So this has been the primary focus over the past year. Okay.
Knowing what a cumbersome and worthwhile process this has been, I know you said earlier, and you've told me offline, that you've had multiple discussions with other cities all over the place as to whether there was a product we could get, and there just wasn't. Because we've spent so much time and effort on this, are other municipalities going to be able to benefit from anything we're doing?
You know, every agency or every municipality has a little different need. There's no one size fits all. One of the proposers for us is a company that sees this as a real opportunity, and certainly given the changes in state law, there are abundant opportunities. We looked at that particular company, but because we have 40 years of experience, we sort of have identified different needs than new jurisdictions are identifying. They're just looking, how do we get the rents registered? How do we get the ownership registered? They're not thinking about the more advanced pieces of this that we're implementing. Certainly in the future, I think, if people are interested in this, we may be able to share some of our experience, but although we've met with all the jurisdictions together to kind of talk about that idea, could we all pick something? The needs are different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. But all right, so here talking about data conversion, this is a key piece of the project, of course, and it's kind of a building block approach, as you can see. Addresses are an unbelievably complicated aspect of our database. There are many buildings that have multiple addresses. They're on a corner, so they have some units on 10th and some on Wilshire or whatever. And then within that building, they number them all different ways. And there are courtyard buildings where every unit has a different building number, even though they're all on the same parcel. This wouldn't seem so complex, but given our database and the capabilities of our database, we've done a fantastic job of managing these complicated addresses. But working with our partners, this is something that, is a real challenge. So that's the first piece of it. And then, of course, we already have the ownership and property information. So that's building the data conversion piece of it. We have a lot of rent and amenity information. We have all of our exemption removal and Ellis activity. We've got limited information in the rent database about that, but we're going to be integrating some things from other databases into this central system with respect to exemptions, removals, and Ellis activity. And then, of course, we have our petition and billing histories unit by unit and for the properties. So the data conversion is a big part of it, but the addresses are kind of the major thing that we're working on right now, and the other things will flow more smoothly after that. Let me see. All right. So report creation, I mentioned that right now we are fairly limited in our reports. We depend upon a programmer to do all of our complex reports, like what we need to pull for the annual report. The analysis that we do about the impact of market rate increases requires our programmer to do that. That is a complex report where we will have a SQL report written by our consultants, and in the future we'll be able to do this type of thing with the staff person that we will have. But we need some things. MAR reports, our periodic reports, we send those out to property owners every June, and it tells them what our records show. That's kind of a complex report too. It doesn't look complex to the owner, but to get that report produced is not a simple thing. So there are a number of reports that they will be writing, even including letters, communications, decisions, things that are part of our workflow processes will now be considered reports in this system. So we have to program all of those. We have to spec out all of those reports. And the ad hoc reports I've already talked about. That will be the ability of staff to identify what information they want to pull from the database across many fields, move it into Excel, and then be able to do analysis through Excel or something, an application like that.
So this person that you're hiring to do all of this, are they going to be on board while this is being rolled out to be able to talk, like knowledge transfer all of this information, or are we just planning on like someone teaching this person magically how to do all of this?
Well, we're going to bring to you probably next meeting a job specification like you've just approved tonight for the staff assistant, our administrative staff assistant. We'll bring you a job spec, and then we will be recruiting. We will be recruiting with the city's information systems department for this position.
Okay, that makes me nervous. How long is that going to take?
It's going to take probably a couple months at least.
I think like 6 months, right?
Hopefully not.
Is there any way to expedite that?
No.
Be live before?
Hopefully not.
Okay,
We really
okay,
want to have
okay.
somebody on staff. And I have to say that Hong, our current person, has extended his retirement several times because he wants to see this through, and I am so appreciative of that. But you're right, we need to get somebody on staff. I mean, we are feeling that need as well. But we are in this, we are aligning ourselves more directly with the city's information systems department, which is to our benefit. One of the reasons we picked the Infor system is the water department uses the Infor system. So there are people on staff who have some familiarity with this. And the idea will be that we'll have an additional person who will work with us and be involved with the city, and there won't be one point of contact and failure for it. We'll have backup through the city for this system, which we do not have now. So, okay. So that's the reports. Another big piece of this is integrations. I mentioned a few minutes ago that we keep a lot of information for example, for our exemption monitoring and our eviction monitoring and the post-Ellis use of properties. We keep all of that in other databases, whether it's Excel or Access or whatever. We want that information to be incorporated into this system for reporting purposes and easy availability to staff for the information, so that those databases will be integrated into the system. We're also working on an integration with the tax assessor for the calculation per property of the surcharges. Not all the tax assessor data, that would be another integration, but we're focused solely on the information we need to be able to have accurate information about the surcharges that are currently passed through to tenants. So there's yeah. But just a piece of it, just the portion that allows us to do the surcharges. We can expand upon that, but that was not within the scope of work of this project. We have payment processors for our e-check payments and credit card payments. Sadly, we have not had very high adoption of e-check payments. It's less than the price of a stamp for an owner to pay their fees. Maybe our experts with the landlord community can help us work on that. We would really love to have more people pay by e-check, but we're going to be integrating those payment processes into this system.
With credit card?
They can pay by any credit card. Of course, they have to pay a fee, so I understand why people may not want to pay by credit card, but electronic fund transfer is 35 cents, less than the cost of a stamp.
Yeah, I always use the e-check when I can. So, are we doing like user acceptance testing?
There will be.
For specific communities, because I find that to be extremely important, and I would like to make sure that that's included in the process.
There is certainly a user acceptance testing portion for the internal staff. The external piece of it, I mean, payment processing will be just like it is now, going to our website, clicking on a link to go to the payment processing. There's not much to that. But the rhythm part, the subscription part, yes, we will need to have involvement of property owners to help us work with that rhythm, the public-facing portion.
Yeah, I would like to suggest that we invite, certain.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you going to
Others.
focus group any tenants?
That's not part of our plan to focus group tenants. This is
The tenants aren't using it, are they?
well, tenants will be able to file petitions
Okay,
and
fair enough. Okay.
Well, or look up just even the rent database and things about their
that
amenities and.
that service will be available to property owners because we will connect property owners with their properties. So they will be able to make changes and file things on their properties. Of course, it will go through a workflow for approval before the database is changed. But tenants will not have that same access, but they will have access. I mean, we've enhanced already our look up a rent feature on the website. You see it now has number of bedrooms, the date of the most recent tenancy, a little more information. We did that because it's very easily accessed. It's one of the most frequently accessed pages of our website. So we want to enhance that and keep that as simple as possible. So yes.
And not to interrupt, but just so folks know, I know we also do have a speaker, so.
I'm almost done if you want me to wrap it up.
Just so, no, not so that you wrap up, but if there's like discussion items after, I just want to be mindful that we do have a speaker. That was I'm not trying to rush anyone or my fellow commissioners.
All right, and so then I've already talked about the document management system. We're going to have a public-facing portal for that, but another feature of this will be all of those things that result in changes to the database, the forms and things, will be a hyperlink. So from the database, you'll be able to click on this hyperlink and see the document or the submittal that was the cause of the change to the database. So we have a very good document management system, but this really brings the two together, the database and the document management system. So as I mentioned earlier, we're very close to launching the web portal for the online access to the site file documents. The documents that will be available when we go live with this will be from 2005 to the present, so the last 15 years. We may in the future make older documents available, but these we've been indexing more thoroughly. We've redacted them where necessary, and we don't want to release any documents that have not been properly reviewed before we do that. So that's why we're 2005. Which review process? Lima's overseeing that. There will be others involved in that. Well, he's always available, yes. And part of what the administrative staff assistant that we'll be hiring will be doing will also be working on the records retention plan and the records retention schedule. And this would be another thing with the documents that person may also assist with. Documents will be available accessible by address or parcel number. They'll be indexed to provide easier access to know what people are looking for. And as I mentioned, in the future, we may provide access to older documents. One of the benefits of this is people who ask us, they need to come to the counter to look at files or to look at the documents. We get Public Records Act requests for all the documents related to a property. People will be able to self-serve themselves to get a lot of these documents. And they'll also be available from their various devices. So it should make it much more friendly for people to access. Another part of this, something that I know is very important to the board, is improving our outreach and communications. So we talked a little bit about the customer service context portion of this, where we'll be able to keep track of each communication that we have with somebody, what we did, who we referred them to, whether, it resulted a petition being filed, that type of thing. And as I said, staff members will be able to see prior contacts with that person. We're also gathering tenant contact information from the tenants themselves. We'll ask them to provide it so that we'll be able to have more direct communications, a broader, bigger email list to be able to reach out to people when there's news to be shared that we're not sending out in printed format. And then finally, the system support aspect of it, as Commissioner Terosis was asking, we will be hiring a business process technology analyst to replace the position that we currently have. This person needs different skills than our current programmer has. We will be working closely with the city's Information Services Department, so we will have the support from them and depth with them in terms of we can fund one person within our department, but they have a whole department of people who will be available to assist us, and they have been in the past, but we're making a closer alliance with them. And then we can continue to have support from True Point, although their contract is to complete this project, and any future development that we would want them to do would be a separate contract, but our intention is to have somebody that can do what you were saying, Commissioner Terosis, be able to make changes. The law changes. We need to implement new things. We need somebody to be able to help us do that, and that's our intention with the business process technology analyst.
Yeah, I just know from like implementing similar type projects, it really is expensive to, I'm assuming that True Point is available, but for like hourly cost if you need additional or whatever your package is. So we just want to avoid like any cost to the agency.
Well, it's a costly project,
right?
But very worth
avoid
it.
Additional like after the fact post implementation like upgrade report like support etc. hours to the extent that we can.
Right. Well, there are pieces that we did not elect to implement in this first phase, if it's a first phase. Technology is constantly changing, and there may be things that we want to do in the future. There's a whole analytics module that could be very beneficial, but we did not contract that to start with that.
Sounds interesting.
They wanted to sell it to us. Infor really wanted us to buy that, but we need to get this in place, and then maybe we think about that in the future. So that's what I wanted to share with you tonight of where we are. As I said, the document piece of it, I hope will be up by the end of the month or the beginning of March. The rest of it, we're moving right ahead. I'm not going to say a date yet because we don't have a date certain, but we're moving right ahead.
Will you remind us what effect this will all have on our primary website? Is that going to be being updated or brought into the
Well, this project
21st century?
This project will not be changing our website, but the city is involved in a very extensive revision to their website. Mr. Costello has been our person working on that and working with the city. We are part of it, and their approach will be different. The way they organize things will be different. Although our website doesn't look really, it's not really flashy, it serves a good purpose. People are able to find what they're looking for, and we don't want to lose that. So it's very important that as the city moves on the website, that we don't lose the ability for people to find what they're looking for with us. And it's kind of a tension, but we're working on it, and maybe in the future, Dan can give you a little bit of an update on that as well.
Great. Okay, so we have a speaker on our agenda. Ms. Golden-Gieler, you've requested 3 minutes. Thanks. And I will time you, well, Lonnie will time you.
You're gonna do it over here. So you push this button here to move forward.
Oh, it might be the thingy.
This?
Yeah, yep. I think you gotta hold it away from the mic.
Got it.
Oh,
So I want to make sure that City TV is ready. There's an echo here. Can you hear the echo? Maybe I'll get a little bit back. So the new rent board website is called Rent 2020. I think it would be better if we called it Rent Control 1984. When I went on your website today, I already found a mistake. And it made me wonder if your website was developed by Shadow, the same company that developed the app for the Iowa caucuses. Look who it shows as the newly elected rent board chairperson. Hi, Bernie. I knew it was a mistake, though, because compared to you rent board members, Bernie is a conservative. An alternative theory is that your website was developed by the same company that created the Obamacare website. If so, can you confirm? If you like your landlord, you can keep your landlord. Thank you.
It is not melodic. Okay, I think that concludes all orders of business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Sorry, I wanted to state this on the record. Well, first of all, thank you so much for all of your hard work in putting together the Rent 2020. I know we still have a ways to go, but I can only imagine the painstaking process, so that's not lost on us, and thank you. It's kind of like one of those keep the lights on type things that's not, day to day we're seeing it here, but it's super, super important, so we're excited about that. I just wanted to bring publicly, for discussion at a future meeting, I hope it would be the next meeting, but I know that might not be possible. I have seen a significant increase in tenants coming and questioning me about tenant harassment situations that are happening in the community, and specifically with temporary relocation for construction that's going on in their building. And I still, I understand the jurisdictional issues, but I have not been satisfied. And I know that we've asked multiple times for updates and we've heard from the neighborhood preservation coordinator, and everything seems great, and there's a lot of lip service about what's happening. I'm hearing that there's not a lot of awareness of the means and methods assessment. With our friends at Building and Safety and Code Enforcement, it's not being incorporated. It's kind of like a swept under the rug type of thing. And like, how seriously is it being taken? I don't know. So I specifically want data. I would invite our building inspector, code enforcement to come here and talk to us and address this publicly. But if they can't do that, I think that speaks to how seriously they're taking any of this in the market. But I would like to know how many temporary relocation, like for example, in the past year or year over year, how many temporary relocation permits have been granted, for what period of time, how many incorporate means and methods plans versus how many don't, and then what type of permits are the buildings availing themselves of when they file for the temporary relocation of the tenants, and how long are those? I think I already said that. How long are the tenants out? And then what happens to those tenants? Do they ever move back in or not? And so I want some hard data publicly here about what's going on in this city, so we can hone in on the specific issue of tenant harassment and what we're going to do. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Trosis. So now I will entertain a motion to adjourn in honor of Executive Director Tracy Condon's 33rd year of service.
I will second that motion.
And we love you. Love ourselves and love you for Valentine's Day.
Thank you, Tracy.
So I think all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're adjourned in Tracy's honor.